Hello, my name is Tamara Espinheira. Some of you already know me, and I'm going to bring you some insights on the advantages of the system of a macro region. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you very much for listening. So we will see what for, why is a macro region so interesting for the Atlantic. How would it be again to pass from the maritime strategy to a macro-regional territorial strategy, and how is it going to better work for us as regions with other responsibilities than macro regions? Okay. So, well, not so up. So, what's a macro region? Very simply, because you've been discussing the concept for long, think of that of an enhanced cooperation. Okay, that some states, in this case some regions, want to go further than other regions in European territorial cooperation. So, it is already stated by the treaties, and it's already ongoing for other territories, as you know. How to choose topics? Well, real, concrete, place-based challenges. So, not everything, not just the urgent matters, also the important matters, and those that are really concerns of the territory. Think, for example, that COVID, everybody's dealing with COVID. It's not a concrete place-based Atlantic issue, even if it's very real. Okay, scale. When choosing your priorities, think of those that are bigger than a typical EU program. Think of the budget we have in the Atlantic Area program, and think of the real concrete place-based challenges, and you'll see that they don't fit. Okay, just a suggestion, but I know that you will be discussing all day. Transport and the real Atlantic corridor, not the proposal of DG Move, but a real facility connecting Atlantic airports and Atlantic cities between themselves, and that you can go from one region to another without passing through the capital of the main state. Second, the Atlantic Ocean as a threat. So, as I said, climate change everybody's dealing with. The Atlantic is dealing with flooding, erosion, and storms. And finally, Atlantic identity and prosperity. So, Atlantic environment, culture, tourism, blue economy, fisheries, for example, energy, and the relations with the other shores. First, and easiest to identify the relation with the United Kingdom, but we can also add the relation with Morocco, or with the United States, or with Argentina or Brazil, for example. So, how does it work? Well, first of all, it is a question of power and a question of conflict of power, and how the Atlantic regions want to position themselves in Brussels. Who are going to be your friends, your best friends? So, in a macro region, you are choosing, in terms of power, of European power, a Director General of the European Commission. So think which Director General of the European Commission, which commissioner, if you want, has the most important budget of one of the most important, leads the rest of Directorate Generals in partnership agreements with the states. So it has a lot of power. Which one deals with conditionality? Which one has a coordinating program like Interact, or a macro regions specific unit? Okay. Think also which will be the right model for the Atlantic arc, because You've been working with the Baltic and the Alpine models, but maybe you should look at the Adriatic and the Danube, especially the Danube because it was constructed around the transport problems in the river. And even from a CPMR point of view, where regions work and work a lot, in the Adriatic and the Danube macro-regions, the networks like the Forum of Adriatic and Ionian Cities and the Council of Danube Cities and Regions were at least the secretariats, directly, straight on. So to avoid duplicates and brain drain and theft. What I'm meaning with brain drain and theft? Well, the platforms of the subnational entities do the work, identify projects, identify stakeholders, draft the documents, but never get paid for. That's what I'm meaning by brain drain and theft. Last but not least, think that Adriatic was born as a sea strategy and they requested to become a macro region afterwards. And the Adriatic strategy, as the Baltic strategy, the sea strategies for both basins are still active. Okay, and finally, put the things in order. So the macro region plan should start by identifying relevance. Okay, first priorities. We will deal with programs afterwards. Just as a point of view, do you know that the European Space Agency has a specific program for the Atlantic regions? That's the kind of things that you have to identify before coming to the programming. And secondly, there is certain flexibility in the European programs to deal with the specific questions. As we saw with COVID or as we saw with the Ukrainian war, rules are rules until they need to be modified. Okay, so think that you will have this same flexibility to play with when drafting your macro region. And finally, how does it work and how much does it cost for regions and how are we going to cope with another layer of European legislation and programming? It's needed to think the other way around, okay? Macro regions are intended to create consistency between the different European Union, national, regional, local initiatives. And as priorities are identified, the call for projects are negotiated in advance. So for a region, it's easier to find itself in the different options of programs, and it doesn't have to play with, okay, I will do some Interreg Northwest and some Interreg Atlantic area so as to get my own project done. Okay, and the second is that you don't have the notre effect, so the French law that doesn't allow regions to invent new expenses because they will be aligned. The law will be the same in the European and in the regional level. Events will be rationalized because we are working on priorities, and regional programming will be compatible because it will be inspiring it with EU programming. So even timing and political timing is paramount, will be better. Secondly, as I said, with the work of the political platforms, visibility. So the European Union, the Commission will know who to call for doing what. That's why you have a very big red telephone in front of you. So the experts from the territories themselves, call them directors or counselors or whatever you have in your own region, will be called to bring forward their expertise, opinion, critics, analysis, etc. And proposals will be easy to put forward to the national and supranational levels. And thirdly, and very important, the macroregions create a system of top-down accountability, because the Commission has to analyze them once every, let's say, 3-5 years, write a full report, the last one was in December, so as to demonstrate that macroregions are doing all these things I've been speaking about. So don't think it about the macroregions as a new ledger, but as a working way that is cleverer. Okay. Last but not least, please think that is not bringing the Atlantic regions to the table. The Atlantic table belongs to the regions. It's a giving back the voice of the Atlantic regions in Brussels. So as Chevy Gisard used to say, the Atlantic coast must be, above all, a voluntary action to transfer a geography, that of Western Europe, of the Atlantic area, into an economic cluster and a human community. Okay? So please bring back the Atlantic table. I'm quoting Margaret Thatcher. And thank you very much to this invitation, for listening to me, to Elise for inviting me, having this undirected exchange with you. And if you want to speak further on, these are my contact details: website, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on. Thank you very much. Have a nice meeting today. Bye.